Let's begin tonight with our national carrier. The airline says sorry, but the severity of its financial situation means Air New Zealand simply can't afford to refund everyone without dipping into its $900 million government loan facility. The airline says post-COVID-19 it's carrying hundreds of thousands of credits for cancelled or deferred flights or trips customers simply can't take. It's refunded flights to or through the United States, and anywhere else it won't fly to again, like Buenos Aires. But everyone else gets a credit, and that has caused a huge customer backlash, with many people saying they're facing tough financial times too, and they need the cash back. Consumer New Zealand has repeatedly asked the national carrier to show some fairness and make exceptions to its policy. But to put things in perspective, Air New Zealand says last April it flew 1.4 million passengers. This April, it was just 15,000. I spoke to Air New Zealand's Chief Revenue Officer, Cam Wallace, and started by asking whether Air New Zealand has the financial resources to give a refund to everyone who wants one.
If we refunded everyone, that would have quite a significant impact on our cash flow. It would mean we would move into using the $900 million loan from the government quicker. And I suppose as a consequence of that, we would have to make some even more aggressive decisions around our cost base, what we do with labour, what we do with planes. So it's a bit of a balancing act for us.
So are you telling us that it's jobs or refunds? You'll cut jobs or you can give refunds?
Well, no, as you know, we've been, unfortunately, and it's pretty distressing actually, having to release a whole bunch of people anyway. So we would have to accelerate that. The challenge for us is this is such a unique and unparalleled event on aviation that it costs a lot to run in New Zealand. Pre-COVID is about $400 million a month. So whilst $900 million sounds like a lot of money, and we will draw down on that loan, we're trying to do all possible to run the business where we have a very, very small amount of revenue coming in the door, and we still have significant costs.
I just want to be clear on this because it's really important. On the one hand, you've said to me that it's in the high hundreds of thousands that you would have to refund people if you gave refunds to everyone who wants them.
That's a high hundreds of thousands of credits.
Right. So tell me what the dollars is.
Roundabout. I don't have the dollars, and that
you must know that. You must give me a ballpark.
It's a significant amount of money.
Okay, well, you're saying in this letter to Consumer New Zealand, in essence, that if you had to pay up that money, it has the potential to put you in a delicate financial position. So are you running that close to the bone?
So we've got revenue and cost forecasts, as you'd expect, for the next 2 years. I think we've made it clear that the business will be smaller for longer than we originally anticipated, but we see some rebound in the domestic market, but we still have significant costs in this business. And at some stage shortly, in the next 3 to 6 months, you expect us to start to use the government loan. But what we're trying to do is do everything possible, not just with labour, but with revenue, with all our costs, to maintain a level in terms of getting the right balance between cost and revenue.
So if you were to pay these customers their money back, you would have to dip into that $900 million loan facility.
Undoubtedly, it would accelerate our requirement to dip into the loan, undoubtedly.
If you want people to understand this, then give us a ballpark figure. How many millions are you talking about in potential refunds?
Oh, it's tens of millions of dollars. It's not an insignificant amount of money, and there is a lot of people who have credits. There's no doubt about that.
Okay. How do you think you've treated your customers through this? Because we've had a lot of communication with our listeners who are saying that you are failing miserably in terms of communicating your position, in terms of them accessing their credits. How well do you think you've done?
Oh, look, I think we need to apologise in terms of the way people can avail or use the credits. That has been a disappointment for us, and I am deeply sorry for that. We hadn't anticipated that there would be leisure travel allowed in level 2. So we've been working with about 55 people working on a digital solution ready to be released in late July so that it's more accessible.
Late July?
More accessible and easier to use the credits. People can use the credits now. We've got a lot of flexibility, so if they bought a ticket to Singapore, they might be able to use it to Queenstown and Christchurch. They can have a retained credit.
But
So there's a
Cam,
lot
they
of
can't
flexibility.
see their credits. What they're saying to us is they can't see their credit anywhere. When they ring up, they can't immediately access the credit. A person who I spoke to today said that they got a message saying that you'd get back to them within 14 days, which is after the point that they wish to book a flight. It kind of sounds like a complete schmozzle, doesn't it?
Oh, well, I mean, I think it has to be looked at in the context of the impact that COVID's had on our business. And the facts are that we have had a massive impact. We've been trying to get our customer experience a lot better. We've put more people into the contact centre. We're getting more and more people in there. We do have the facilities to make this work, but we're just asking for some patience for our customers because, yes, we want to have the facility that people can go online, see how much they've got, go online, make a booking using the credit. So we understand that it's not smooth. It has been disappointing in terms of the amount of time people are taking to get through. We will get this fixed. We want to make sure that people have flexibility to use the service, and we want, understandably, people to be proud of the airline in the future.
Do you accept that you have not done well enough here, that you have not done well enough?
Look, I agree that the process for availing or using these credits has not been smooth. It hasn't been fast and efficient enough. It has been a number of factors that have impacted on that. Probably the biggest single factor is that in level 2 restrictions under COVID, we originally anticipated we would have less planes flying, and leisure travel originally wasn't allowed in level 2. So we had a timeline for a digital solution. We want to make it right, and we want to make it work. But we're very, very aware that there's a lot of customer dissatisfaction. Similarly, there are some people who are happy to have the credit, they're happy to have it to be used in a year or 2 years' time. So
understand
there is
that,
mixed feedback.
They need to be able to access that. So that's the credits.
Absolutely.
In terms of your customers who want a refund and you're not giving it to them, do you think that's fair? Because this government has asked people to be fair and kind during this time. And the argument would be that the New Zealand taxpayer has been fair and kind to you. You've had $70 million plus in wage subsidies, and you've got a taxpayer-backed $900 million loan facility. So are you returning the kindness to your customers, some of whom desperately need refunds because their circumstances have changed?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to do that through providing flexibility like we've never provided before for our customers, and that is the length of time they can use the credits, the places they can use the credits, and they'll be able to retain the value of the credits. So what we've tried to do
But
is
again,
be
that's
fair.
a credit, not money, isn't it? And that is the sticking point.
Yeah, I mean, that is generally the way that we deal with non-refundable fares, is that we do apply credits. We usually have more restrictions on those credits, so what we've tried to do is say we want that current process to be in play, but we will extend the time that people can use it, the length of time, and also the different destinations. So within that framework, we've tried to be as fair and reasonable as we possibly can.
Be clear with me on this. If you gave refunds to the people who want it, would it sink Air New Zealand?
Oh, look, it would be a considerable impact on our bottom line.
So what's a considerable impact? Would it make you insolvent? Would it send you to the floor?
You know we have a $900 million facility from the government. The challenge
Exactly.
is,
so why not use it?
Well, because if we use it, it would accelerate our financial position and having to use it earlier, and it would mean that we make different decisions in terms of reducing our cost base. So these are the challenges we have to make.
So where do you think you're going to fly to if indeed there is a trans-Tasman bubble and potentially the Pacific? What are you gearing up for specifically?
So historically before or pre-COVID, we had 80 flights a week to Australia, and it was about 22% of our business. So it's pretty significant for us. So we'd be flying to, everywhere from Perth to Adelaide, Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Coolangatta, Cairns, etc. So we're very confident and motivated about the Tasman bubble because Australia just offers such a range of different destinations and a raft of different attractions for Kiwis to go. So we would be pretty confident that we'd have a similar network offering to what we had going into COVID, and the same with the Pacific Islands. The Pacific Islands is a smaller part of our business, but as important.
What about other destinations? I mean, Vietnam is saying it wants to be in Australia's bubble. Are you looking at that? Are there other international places that might open up in some kind of bubble that you're preemptively looking at?
No, we are in a number or numerous working groups trying to establish the Trans-Tasman bubble first. And the reason for that is, one, it's a high-density market for us. It's where a lot of our capital is deployed. So we could get a lot of planes flying quite quickly. We also think because it's a short-haul destination, you can stimulate the market a lot quicker on short-haul. Kiwis seem to be pretty comfortable with the way both countries have handled the outbreak. So we're very fixated on using the test case of Australia first and then going on to the Pacific Islands. And then once people are more comfortable with travelling between those short-haul destinations, we think long-haul will be a logical extension of those. I mean, any country where we have services to or could open up services to, and we think there's a viable proposition, we'll be dead keen to try and implement long-haul services. We do have obviously a lot of long-haul aircraft, we've got a lot of crew, and we've got a lot of people who are really keen to get going. But we only want to do it if it's safe and if the public are confident in the proposition. So even with the Tasman, because it will be the only place in the short to medium term that Kiwis can travel international, we actually might surge some capacity. So we actually put more planes or bigger planes on that market because we do think there will be underlying demand.
How quickly can you do that, Cam? 1 week, 2 weeks? How much warning do you need?
We can do that very, very quickly. We've got the aircraft, we've got the crew, we are ready to go. And we actually, when we've been looking at our staff numbers and the labour required, we've got flexibility in that, which means we're carrying some costs. But we're very mindful of, as soon as that decision got made, if it was positive, that we could deploy our assets quite quickly. We're actually flying very limited services, primarily for cargo to Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane at the moment, 2 or 3 services a week. So we're just operating with skeleton services, and it's primarily for cargo and frankly expats coming home because they have to do the 2-week stand down. If
your financial situation is as you describe it, particularly in regard to the refunds, I mean, what about the redundancies? You're making, 4,000 staff redundant? Can you afford that? Can you afford the redundancies?
Yeah, well, that's a pretty distressing thing for us because we've got so many committed Air New Zealand staff who are just fantastic ambassadors for, literally the country and the company. So it's been kind of heartbreaking to see people lose their jobs and leave the business. We're pretty close to concluding that. There's a number of people through the process who have taken voluntary exits as well as compulsory redundancy. So clearly that's in our forecast in terms of our cash flow as well, and we wouldn't be embarking on that if we didn't have the funds to be able to pay for it.
Will you need to use that $900 million facility to accommodate the redundancy payments?
No, we will not have to.
Cam, before you go, I want to give you the opportunity to speak directly to your customers. What would you like to say to them?
Well, firstly, I'd like to say thank you so much for your patience. I understand there's been a level of frustration getting through to the contact centre and making the bookings with the credits. We apologise for that. We're dealing with the biggest event in aviation history. Please bear with us, and we are very committed to making you proud in the future about your airline, and we are going to be part of the rebuild of tourism in this country. So thank you for your time, and thank you for your patience.